welcome to the stage the Chief Executive and co-founder of the IoT Alliance of Australia, Frank Zeichner. There he is, running up the stage.
Thanks, Mark. Well, that's a pretty hard one to follow. But I've got a subject pretty much as complex, but very, very broad. And that's how do you actually mobilise a country or an industry or a sector to adopt the Internet of Things technology to affect the economy and society in a positive way. That's a multifaceted, multi-dimensional, inspirational type problem to fix. And I'm going to try and say a little bit about what the challenge is and what the progress has been so far in trying to deal with that very, very knotty thing. So the first thing is why would we bother anyway? It's always a good way to start. And the reason we'd bother is because we think there's a massive opportunity. Everyone's telling it's massive. You know, some people have said it's $100 billion here in the next 7 or 8 years. And I believe that could be true, but it could be a heck of a lot less. And why could it be less? Because some of the attributes you need to be good at the Internet of Things are attributes that I think Australians aren't naturally that good at. One of them is collaboration. One of them is sharing. And in fact, and I'm not saying that, the World Economic Forum tells us that. We have progressively gone backwards in the last 3 or 4 years in the global competitiveness stakes. And the World Economic Forum has said that we're going backwards on business sophistication, business innovation, and technological readiness. That sense, to me, that's code for adopting IoT through my lens. And then the Innovation and Science Australia then tells us we're really, really smart at creating knowledge, but we're utterly appalling at adopting and making industry impact with it. So is there a need? Yep. Is there a challenge? Yes. So how can we deal with it? Well, first thing, and this is actually not as easy as you think, because here we are talking to what our chair calls the haves, the people who get it, who want to do something about it. And what we really need is a national narrative on IoT transformation. It's fundamental. And it involves, and it's not the government giving us that, it's everybody. It's industry, government, community, sectors, all starting to understand that these things interact with one another. The whole point of the Internet of Things is removing the isolation, is connecting things that weren't connected before, is about creating new business models, which then gives us all those other benefits about efficiencies and ways of connecting to one another that we hadn't even thought of before. So that evidently involves impacts on our economy, our competitiveness, our productivity. It impacts on our education. It impacts on what we do and how our startups work. And there are some critical enablers and inhibitors that are fundamental that not one company can fix. So when you're trying to move a nation, when you're trying to move an industry, you laud the fantastic evidence of different companies doing things. This company's doing that great use case, this one's doing a great use case, but how do we lift the boat for everybody? And we need to start addressing some of those key enablers and inhibitors across our economy. So we've created an industry association to do that, which is the Internet of Things Alliance Australia. Started in July last year. We now have over 350 organisations involved. We're growing at 5% per month. We cover most sectors today, and we're desperately trying to work with and inside other sectors. So we're focusing on key ones such as water, electricity, transport, food and ag, and cities, so that we all start speaking the same language. We're not techos talking to water people, we're water people and technology talking together at the same time. But not just that, also talking with the cities people who need to understand how water works in a city and how is it enabled with technology. So it's a complex series of circles of interest and collaborations that need to work together. And so our vision is to create a collaborative environment, to engender learning by doing, focus on key sectors, and to tackle the enablers and inhibitors. Who's doing this? Well, I can't list all the 350 companies, and it's probably more in the last couple of hours. But our board and executive include a range of companies across technology, service providers, startups, government, industry, CommBank and IAG are in there. Today we've just had Woolworths decide to join. We can see that industry are starting to get that something's there. They're starting to see that they can't afford to be isolated. So when I think about the Internet of Things, I think, where are you? And this is me paraphrasing someone who said it 2 days ago. It was such a great idea. The Internet of Things is the difference between being isolated and connected and being non-digital and digital. The question is, where do you want to be on that scale, and how does that matter in your universe? So it may be perfectly fine to be isolated and non-digital, but in a world where things are not isolated and they are digital, how do you interact with that? And does that matter to you? If it matters, better start becoming a little bit less isolated, a bit more digital. So it's great we've got a lot of people talking together. What are we doing? We have a whole string of work streams that are addressing those fundamental enablers and inhibitors. So a collaboration work stream that is working on our internal who's who in the zoo in Australia, working on how do we work overseas and learn from them, and how do we change our education programs so that we can reskill as we go. Our sectoral group, we're doing deep workshops in water, for example, now imagining what a water precinct might look like. Water is not the domain of a water utility. It is the domain of everyone in the area. It's the city, it's the building owners, it's the community, it's the people who put the water in the parks, it's those who have to deal with stormwater overflow. That's the water cycle. Let's have a look at how we look at all of that. Let's understand what that even is. Let's look at the data of it. Data sharing, we're about to put out our best practices data usage guide and privacy guide out, and then start translating it for consumers and translating it for the water industry and translating it for the transport industry. We have to start getting that out. We've worked with the Spectrum Authority to redesign what optimal spectrum sharing in the shared band is for low power WAN networks, so we can get maximum coverage and density of sensors at low cost. A huge group that we have is our security work stream, over 100 members. We're doing something really bold. We are looking at introducing an IoT security mark for devices in Australia. A world first, if we get it off the ground. And in my view, this could position Australia to be a country that is recognised not only for the safety of its food, but in the security of its services, which is a fantastic place to go. And I don't think that's a barrier. I think that just weeds out the bad actors. We have a fantastic IoT startup in an innovation team of over 170, maybe 180 entities in there. More than half are startups. A third of them are investors. We have a pitch program about pitching problems, not them pitching solutions. And finally, we have a platforms and interoperability group that is about trying to demystify what a platform is and what interoperability means. And it's not the Uber framework, it's what decisions do you make? How do you make those decisions? Who do you talk to when you have to make those decisions? Because that's one of the big impediments. In addition, and on top of all of that, we've just about to launch today, in fact, we probably launched it an hour ago, our IoT Adoption Index survey. So this is one that I would love all of you and to send to all of your friends and your companies and your customers and your partners. We want to know where we are in the journey across each of the sectors of our economy so that we can start looking at what we do and where we focus to improve the situation. So this is open for the next 2 months. You can go to our website and just click the button and you can go ahead. It's on our front page. We're going to be sending it out via our members. We're going to be sending it out via channels, via the Business Council of Australia and you name it, we're going to be sending it through every channel. But we want to try and get an index across the country and then start influencing sectors, government, and of course, our own work. So that probably doesn't tell you exactly where we are in adopting it, because I don't think we actually really know. But we're certainly moving the dial, and the growth of our organisation, I think, reflects a little bit some of the excitement and the sense of the time is now to do something. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an opportunity to see what's happening. Join us if you want to participate. Join us if you want to collaborate. Thank you.